of Porchtown Road, Upper Neck Road, and Lawrence Corner Road. And 6 points is the intersection of Garden Road, Parvin Mill Road, and Alvine Road. These roads are all county roads under this jurisdiction of Salem County, and these two intersections have been the location of numerous crashes over the years. And we're here this evening to discuss the issues that exist at these intersections, as well as ways that are being proposed to improve public safety at these locations. In conjunction with the South Jersey Transportation Planning Organization, or SJTPO, Salem County initiated a process of determining ways to improve safety at these two intersections. Both the 5 points and 6 points intersections were submitted by Salem County as candidates for federal local safety program funding and were approved by a committee made up of SJTPO, NJ Department of Transportation, and the Federal Highway Administration. So I'd like to introduce our panelists who are with us this evening. If we could go to the welcome and introduction slide, please. Representing SJTPO, we have Alan Huff, Program Manager for Safety Initiatives and Public Outreach. Representing the project design engineering firm, Urban Engineers, we have Adam Brown, a Project Manager, William Patton, Project Manager, and Dan Hutton, Assistant Planner. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Alan Huff from SJTPO, who will discuss the involvement of SJTPO and their role in the planning and funding process. Alan?
Great, thanks, Jim. Good evening. My name's Alan Huff. I'm the Program Manager for Safety Initiatives and Public Outreach with the South Jersey Transportation Planning Organization. A bit about us real quick. SJTPO is the Metropolitan Planning Organization that serves Atlantic, Cape May, Cumberland, and Salem counties here in South Jersey. We're based in Vineland. Two other MPOs also serve the remainder of the state, operating out of Philly, they're in green, and out of Newark in pink, shown on the map. MPOs are federally required in order to enable local governments to access federal transportation funds. We also provide a regional approach to transportation planning issues, which cross jurisdictional boundaries. Most importantly, we serve as a technical resource to our member subregions, such as Salem County. Next, please. An important way that we fund many safety improvements, including these projects, is through the local safety program. The local safety program is administered by the New Jersey Department of Transportation in collaboration with SJTPO. It is funded through the Federal Highway Safety Improvement Program, or HSIP for short. The HSIP program emphasizes an intensive data-driven approach, which ensures that safety issues are addressed in the best way possible and focuses on addressing serious injury and fatal crashes. Potential project locations are identified through a series of network screening lists created for NJDOT and updated every few years. These lists identify and rank top crash locations in the county and across the region, and are weighted by the number and severity of the crashes. If you're interested, you can learn more about this program on our website at sjtpo.org/HSIP. Next, please. So as Jim mentioned, the county was aware that these two locations, 5 points and 6 points, had experienced a number of crashes over the years. This was confirmed by the network screening lists released by NJDOT. So knowing that these intersections were eligible for these federal funds got this ball rolling. It's important to note that these federal funds will allow the county to pay for this project in full with federal dollars, not requiring a local match. In looking at the complex geometry, the types of crashes, and the high speeds along these corridors, the county determined that roundabouts had the potential to be ideal for these intersections. The county worked with us to submit applications for HSIP funds through the local safety program. The committee that oversees the program, made up of ourselves, NJDOT, and the New Jersey Division of the Federal Highway Administration, met and agreed that these locations were perfectly suited for roundabouts. A couple of additional things to note. SJTPO is serving as a resource to the county on this project. We're sort of the administrative project managers for the project, but we're here to assist them in navigating the state and federal process and incorporating any requirements of the HSIP program. But beyond that, we defer to them on design decisions as they are the owner of these roadways. So now Adam Brown, the project manager with Urban, he'll talk about roundabouts and the design concepts. Adam?
Thank you, Alan. As Alan stated, for these two projects, the roundabout was found to be the best design solution to resolve the issues at the intersections. So what I want to do is first go through a couple slides just discussing roundabouts in general, how they're made, how we look at them as design solution, and then we'll get into the actual design solutions for the two intersections. So as you can see here, roundabouts is a design solution. It is not one size fits all. As you can see from the pictures on the slide here, we have 5- and 6-leg roundabouts, which are similar because they're round in shape. But as you can see, some are oval, some are circular with evenly spaced legs, some are circular with not evenly spaced legs, and even some have this weird shape that you see here, which we call the peanut. So after doing a lot of these public info centers for roundabouts across the state, one of the first questions that we get is, isn't New Jersey getting rid of traffic circles? Which is, yes, they are. So then the question is, well, how are roundabouts different than traffic circles? And are they different? And the answer is yes. One of the biggest thing that differs them is that with the modern roundabout, it is yield on entry on all approaches, not on some, on all approaches. So if the driver approaches the roundabout from any direction, before they enter, they must yield to the circulating traffic. Circulating traffic always has the right of way. There's also deflection on entry. Deflection is added to slow speeds down. One of the goals of a modern roundabout is to keep speeds about 25 mile an hour on approach, and then circulating between 17 and 20 miles an hour. You'll see splitter islands, which are these islands that are here on all 4 sides. Again, they are to slow traffic as the driver approaches, and you have curb on the left and curb on the right. It makes the driver feel like the roadway is getting smaller, so they slow down on the approach. It encourages slower speeds. Slower circulating speeds. The widths of the circulating path is generally 16 feet. It's small enough that it gives the vehicles the freedom to make their turning movements, but not so large that they want to accelerate or a car feels they have enough room to pass within the roundabout itself. There's a central island, which you can see here with a truck apron. Purpose of the truck apron is to allow larger vehicles such as tractor trailers to be able to navigate their turns as the front wheels take on the asphalt portion. The back wheels may trail on top of the truck apron itself. The truck aprons generally have a 2-inch curb, so it is mountable and flat enough that it's not going to tip the tractor trailer itself. However, with that small little curb piece, it discourages the smaller cars from wanting to utilize that same space. Sign and paving markings, well in advance, you'll see roundabout ahead. If there's a multi-lane roundabout, it'll tell you what specific lane you need to be in to get to your destination. As you approach the roundabout, there really should be no guessing about where you need to be to get where you want to go. It should all be laid out, so there's really no decisions that you have to make. No parking or driveways. With a modern roundabout, we don't want any people or cars in the center of the roundabout itself, and also we want to limit the amount of access that we have around the circle as well. Clearly striped with large. There'll also be signs to go along with that, and within the split around itself, there's a space for pedestrian refuge. So when a pedestrian crosses one lane, they can stop if they don't have the okay to cross the second part of the leg. And then for also landscaping, some areas you'll see these splitter islands, grass or landscapes, and the central islands themselves. It's an opportunity for wherever this roundabout is being placed for the local township committees and residents to decide on how they want the roundabout itself to look, whether it be with tree plantings, flowers, or anything else to make this new intersection feel like it's part of the community. So some of the things we have to think about when we're looking at using a roundabout as a design solution is, what are we designing for? You know, roundabouts, though they are great solutions, in every case, you know, they're not always the best, and they will function differently depending on what they're being used for. So some of the things you can design for is to reduce crashes by minimizing conflict points, reducing severe crashes and injury fatality crashes, reducing speeds on approach roadways, removing driver confusion for multiple decision points, improving intersection congestion and overall delays, and improving site distance lines and site distances. So you may have two intersections where one, it's heavily volume traffic and you need to distribute it better, so roundabout will be good for that intersection. Whereas another one may not have a lot of traffic, but there's a lot of high-speed crashes. So in that case, they're two different needs, but the roundabout does function as a appropriate solution for both. You also need to think about what we're designing for. You got to look at the types of vehicles that are around the area where this roundabout will be implemented. We have to account for school buses, emergency vehicles, ambulance, fire trucks, farm equipment that'll be used in a lot of rural areas, as well as large tractor trailers. And as far as other road users, when designing a roundabout, you need to look at, is there a heavy pedestrian use in the area? Is there bicyclists in the area that will need to navigate these roundabouts? And also, where are we designing? Are we in a residential area with low speeds? You'll also see some roundabouts at highway interchanges, rural areas with high speeds. Are we close to a bridge or rail? Is there any environmentally sensitive areas such as wetlands, green acres, farmland preservation? Are there buildings that are close to the intersection? How many legs? 3, 4, 5, 6 leg intersections. Again, bike and ped accommodations, and if there's any existing drainage issues. So those are all things we have to think about when looking at an intersection to use a roundabout, and that'll affect how it looks. But some other important things that we need to take into consideration is we want consistency on all approaches. So as you can see in the picture in the top left here, this was an existing traffic circle up in Hamilton, New Jersey, and I hope you can see from this image, there's car here yielding in an interior, car here yielding, car here yielding. This is they have the right of way, car yielding, and these two moves have the right of way. So as you approach this intersection from any given leg going in any direction, if you're not familiar with this area, you may not know, do I have the right of way? Should I yield? Should I stop? The solution that was put in place was a modern roundabout. This is a hybrid, so it's got 2 lanes and 1 lane in a circulating lanes. But all are yield on approach. So no matter where you're coming from, when you approach the roundabout, you always yield as you're entering. And once you're inside, you have the right of way. And you'll have lane markings to let you know, you can't make a left from this lane. This is either a right or a straight. This is where you would go straight or make your left. Limiting driver decisions and providing clear sight lines. This is actually aerial imaging of the 5 and 6 points intersections that we're doing proposed design for. And as you can see, and you're familiar with, as you approach, if you're coming from the north here and you stop, you have to look 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different directions. And once you look at all 5, that doesn't mean you can go, because as you're looking over here, a car might be approaching this. So you want to, with a roundabout, you want to eliminate the need to have to look at 5 different places constantly to make sure it's safe to enter. And also, as you're approaching here from the left, if you're looking at the road to the north, can you see if there's a car approaching because of the trees? You may or may not, it may be difficult, coming down from this way to see a car coming because of the angle. So again, these are all things we want to eliminate by just putting in a roundabout. Clear signing and striping. And this is an example of an existing traffic circle up in Lawrence Township. As you can see on these two legs here, they're both two lane. But once you're inside this, how many lanes are there? At this point, there's 3 with a yield. So again, as far as the driver confusion, I'm inside, I have to yield, there's 3 lanes, but after I leave, there's no striping at all. Where do I go? You want to, again, for the driver, once they're in their lane, they know where they're going, they shouldn't have to make any other decisions. They approach it, it's safe to go, and they just go. You want to maintain consistent speeds when you're entering and circulating and exiting the roundabout. What you'll see a lot of times with existing traffic circles is they're very large, and they have these straightaway sections, and it almost, you look at both of these, they almost look like raceways. So a car comes in, he sees it go, and he can just take off. Speeds, 20, 30, 40 miles an hour, just going right through. You don't want that with the modern roundabouts. Again, you want to keep everything small, and you want to keep speeds low. You don't want to give the car the opportunity to accelerate, and as they approach, they have to slow down again, and that's where you can create some of the rear ends because of the difference in speeds. So the next question that we usually get after is New Jersey getting rid of roundabouts is why a roundabout and not a signal? Signals have been used for many years, and it's seen as a good solution. But for this case, with the signal, you don't really remove the high-speed approaches. The complex intersection configurations with traffic signals, you're going to have 2-3 cycles. Each leg is going to have to go at one time. Drivers can miss a red traffic signal in rural environments. I don't know if you've ever been driving down a road at a good clip and it's just a straight road, and you kind of stop paying attention. All of a sudden, boom, there's red lights. You got to slam on your brakes. Roundabouts provide slower approach speeds. They provide slower intersection and circulating speeds, and they eliminate left turn movements and head-on approaches. FHWA has deemed that modern roundabouts are proven safety countermeasures. They've done studies over the past 10, 20 years of intersections that have been taken from stop-controlled and signalized intersections made into modern roundabouts. And what they found is that for converting a 2-way stop-controlled intersection to a roundabout, there has been about an 82% reduction in severe crashes. And then the same, conversely, for signalized intersections, it's been a 78% reduced in severe crashes. Part of that is due to reducing conflict points. So if you look at a traditional intersection, each one of these points is a time where 2 cars could cross paths. So this would be your stop-controlled or signalized intersection. You have crossings, diverging and converging points. And then for the modern roundabout, you have the same crossing, diverging, and converging. But what you'll find is that for the traditional intersection, which is your stop-controlled or signalized, you could have up to 32 points within that intersection where 2 cars could come together and potentially have a crash. Whereas the modern roundabout, again, is 8, which is a great reduction. And also, again, with the traditional intersection, there's really no speed control to slow the cars down. So a lot of these crashes, when they occur in this most intersection, have a potential to be high speed, whereas a roundabout, again, slowing down on approach, these crashes, if they occur, are going to be low speed, which means less chance of injury. So why is all that important for these 2 intersections? Because as we found, and as was mentioned before, there's recurring crash types at these intersections. There's a large number of angle crashes. There have been injury and fatality crashes with these 2 intersections. And a roundabout was deemed to be an appropriate safety countermeasure for these crash types, frequency, and severity. So the crash analysis that was done for 5 points and 6 points, which you can see, get my mouse going here. For 5 points, which again, as Jim said in the beginning, is Porchtown Road, Upper Neck Road, and Lawrence Corner Road, was found to be number 8 as far as crashes are concerned, ranked in Salem County. And then 6 points, conversely, which is Parvin Mill Road, Garden Road, and Alvine Road, was ranked #1 in the entire county. At 5 points, from crashes that were recorded between 2014 and 2018, that's when this study was initially done, it was found that 88% of the crashes that had occurred at this intersection were right angle crashes. Again, those crossing, there's converging points. And also a high probability of injury, because 61% of those crashes resulted in some degree of injury. Again, because of the high speeds at these intersections. At 6 points, some of the same, between the same date range, 76% of the accidents that occur were right angle crashes, and there was unfortunately fatality in 2016. So with severe and injury crashes occurring, it's because of the crossing and converging conflict points. So as you can see from the left, and we saw this image before, with the stop, controlled, and signalized intersection setup, there was a total of, again, 24 points where you will have either crossing or converging conflict points, and again, at high speeds. Conversely, with the roundabout, you'll have a total of 4. Right angle crashes, because of the crossing conflict points, 16 with your signalized and stop controlled intersections, and 0 with your roundabouts. And that's a huge difference, because you're removing those conflict points from the intersection. And most severe crashes occur at high speed conflict points. So potential high speed for the intersection, signalized, unsignalized, is 32. High speed at the roundabout is 0. Again, approaching 25 miles an hour, circulating 17 to 20 miles an hour. So just going back to this slide, the point I just really wanted to kind of hit home was for these 2 specific intersections, as we saw from the crash analysis that was done, the 2 biggest issues were the type of crashes that were occurring and the amount of injuries that were occurring. And again, with the signalized or stop controlled intersection, you're not removing the potential for those crashes to occur. Now, if you had a stoplight, yes, people could stop at a red light, but you're still carrying high speeds through the intersection, and you're not removing completely the potential for those crashes to occur. Whereas with the model roundabout, you're just removing it completely from the equation, which addresses the needs for these 2 intersections. So just to show you some examples of some roundabouts that have been completed. This was completed in 2016. This here is the existing intersection, which was a skewed 4-leg stop controlled intersection. You can see approaching from either direction. It appears that this way has the right of way. These 2 are stop controlled. Sight distance isn't the best. If you have a high speed here, if someone doesn't see this car coming, potential for a severe crash. This is the final design that was constructed. And as you can see, I don't really see on here pedestrian crossings, but this accounts for pedestrian crossings. It saves it for bicyclists and pedestrians. It's clear, it's open. There's nice landscaping in the middle. They actually have a statue of a horse in the middle for this one. It has a truck apron, and it all approaches. As the car approaches, they yield, and they look to the left, and they can see exactly who's coming in. As you approach, you should just have to worry about this guy right here. You look to your left. Again, this one, they yield, they see him, they yield, they see them. They're looking to their left. You don't have to look across, you don't have to look to the right, you look to the left. If you have it for clear, you can go. This was another one. This is completed in 2014 in Bordentown, Chesterfield Road in Chesterfield Township, Brunswick County. Previous condition, skewed 4-leg. This was an amber flash controlled intersection. Again, sight distance, high speed, and this also had a high frequency of crashes for the same reason as the previous. And here's the final condition. Again, splitter islands, yield and entry. It's large, it's open, your sight lines are good, so you know who's coming, and you only have to look and worry about one direction, which is to your left. So those are some nice 4-leg roundabouts, but as we know, 5 and 6 points are 5 and 6 legs. So do roundabouts work for 5 and 6 leg intersections? The answer is yes. But again, as you can see, I have samples on the left of 5-legged intersections, and on the right of 6-leg intersections. Look similar, but they're not all the same. circular, evenly spaced legs, circular, not evenly spaced legs, kind of skewed angles coming in. Some legs are closer than others. 6-leg, some legs are closer than others. This one looks like evenly 6-leg. And again, that peanut shape, because it essentially is two smaller intersections that are connected by the circulating lane. But again, you want to remove that oval shape, which is the raceway effect, which would allow the vehicles to speed up as they exit or they go through this roundabout. So you want to slow them down as they go through and around to maintain those consistent speeds. So that was kind of a bit of a background on roundabouts, what we look for when we're designing them, we have to think about. So it's not just plopping a circle and saying it's going to work. So there's a lot that goes into these designs. So now I'm going to go to more specifically with the 5 points and 6 points intersections. So first we have the 5-point intersection, which again, this is just for orientation purposes. We have County Route 690 Upper Neck Road, going left to right. County Route 613 Porchtown Road, north to south, and then coming down from the top, County Route 621 Lawrence Corner Road. Looking at the existing conditions, as you can see, it's broken down into 2 different watersheds for drainage purposes. On Porchtown Road, there's a dedicated bike lane on either side of Porchtown Road, which kind of just ends at the intersection. It does pick up for a short while on Upper Neck Road in front of the park where the soccer complex is. And also what you'll notice is this orange area right here. And what this orange area is a New Jersey Farmland Preservation Program parcel, meaning that these parcels or this property is protected by the Farmland Preservation, which is a consideration you have to look at when you're doing different designs. So that's a point you're probably all looking forward to. This is the proposed design as it stands. And as you see from the shape, as I said, you have 5 legs that are evenly spaced and 5 legs that are not evenly spaced. What you can tell from this is not an evenly spaced roundabout. The reason for that is what we wanted to do is we wanted to avoid these preserved farmland parcels. We understand that it's important to maintain the feel for Salem County, and we didn't want to cut through a perfectly good farm for this land. Now we did do all the calcs and everything to make sure that this would still function as a safe solution, and it does. So we're able to kind of get both. Now, as you'll see, because of that, we kind of have to push things up, and we are going to be impacting parcels. Now, you'll see that in both projects, the fact that we have to impact property owner land. But part of our public outreach program, we've gone out already prior to this meeting, and we've met with several, almost all of the property owners that are adjacent to these 2 projects. We've met with them. We've showed them the proposed designs because we didn't want it to be this is the first time they're seeing it and we have a road going through your front lawn. So we've met with them, we've discussed it with them, and that process, that conversation will continue throughout the design process. We want good open communication with the residents of Pittsgrove to make sure that we're creating a good solution, but also listening to the people that are going to be living near here and driving through this. So a little more specifics of this design. On the approach lanes, they're about 10 to 11 feet wide, which is all these approaches coming into the roundabout. Circulating is 16 feet wide. Again, it's wide enough for cars and delivery trucks, ambulances, school buses to make their turns while staying within the asphalt area, but not large enough for a car will feel like they can go around a car circulating in the roundabout. There's a 10-foot wide truck apron. The width of that was determined by we have a software that we use, which we can run different turning movements for different vehicles. So we can run, farm equipment, we can run a fire truck, an ambulance, a school bus, a car, delivery truck, a tractor trailer. The largest one we do is a WB62, which is those large tractor trailers, and we run them. And we make sure, where are the front wheels going, where the back wheels going, and this design is kind of molded around that so we can have the majority of the vehicles making all their turns safely and without having to utilize the truck apron, because again, the truck apron is for those larger tractor trailers. We have 2 drainage facilities shown here to accommodate the drainage. all the inlets that you see with bicycle safe, so your bike wheel's not going to slide down the inlet. And we have a large, again, grass area in the middle, which can be used for landscaping. That's when we can really kind of give the roundabout character that will fit the area where it's located in Pittsgrove. We will also be providing 5-foot wide sidewalks to the north here and to the east. All the ramps will be ADA compliant to the current standards. There's 8-foot wide pedestrian crosswalks that'll be clearly marked and clearly signed. Also, there's a minimum, at the minimum point, it's 10 feet wide and gets larger, a refuge area again. So when a pedestrian crosses one leg and they have to wait for an opening, you know, they have someplace safe where they're not going to be struck by a vehicle. And then also on the southern end, as I mentioned before, there's the Green Branch Park here, which is a soccer complex and playground. In front of that, this is not an image from that site, but this gives you an idea. There's a shared use path along the frontage of that parcel. And what that is where you can use both bicycles and pedestrians can share that area, typically with sidewalks because of their width, you know, 5-6 feet. With bicyclists, they're supposed to get off and walk like a pedestrian because it's not wide enough to go around using both bicyclists and pedestrians. But that's why we made this an 8-foot wide shared use path so it can be used by both. And the idea was we wanted to put in some connectivity between down here where we have the dedicated bike lanes where they could just either, now just to slow down a little bit, with bicyclists using a roundabout, they have two options. They can either take their path and riding on the shared use path, they could get off and walk their bike across, or they can take the lane and they would navigate the roundabout as if they were a vehicle. Again, the speeds are slow enough where there really shouldn't be an issue with someone who's especially experienced with a bicycle navigating this roundabout with the vehicles. And also with this, we're going to have similar to what's being used at the park. It's a wooden, you know, split rail fence that's going to go along this path here. Reason for that is we want to kind of have a little buffer between where the pedestrians will be and the farm itself. If any equipment comes out here cutting or gathering crops, you know, we don't want them interfering, so it kind of gives a safer buffer for the pedestrians. So that was 5 points. We're going to move along to the 6 points intersection. Again, just for orientation purposes, left to right is County Route 674, Garden Road. I guess lower left to upper right, County Route 645, Parvin Mill Road, and then top to bottom, County Route 655, Albine Road. Kind of the same type of existing conditions map. Again, we have this line going down here, which shows that there's two different watersheds. This is kind of like the high point, so anything on this side drains this way, anything on this side drains this way. And there's also, if you look at these purple areas, there's potential for historic property. Salem County Historic Resources Survey was surveyed by Pittsgrove Township. Doesn't mean necessarily there's anything historic here, but I believe if there's buildings older than 50 years old, it's kind of flagged at first. But part of our design process that we're going to continue to go through, we're going to investigate that in conjunction with NJDOT to make sure there is nothing historical in these areas that will be affected by the proposed design. Now for this one, as you can kind of tell from the images that I showed you before to kind of set this slide up, we opted to go with a peanut design for this, and the reason for that is it's 6 legs. You'll find that a lot of 6-leg intersections, 4 roundabouts will have this peanut design. Though you did see ones that did have the circular shape, what you'll find is those are a lot larger. So you may have a circle that takes up a lot larger space because you want to separate these legs. The smaller, so if you squish these 2 circles together, the closer this gets, the closer all these legs get. And again, when you approach the roundabout, you only want to have to look to one leg. Come here, you look this way. Is there someone entering? Is there someone circulating? If not, you go. But the closer the legs get together, you come up here, you're looking at this guy and this guy, because there's not a lot of time from when this vehicle gets in here to when they'll get to where you're entering for these smaller, tighter, circular roundabouts when you have more legs. Again, some of these specifics, just like the previous one, there's 10 to 11 foot wide approach lanes on all legs, 10 to 15, 16 foot circulating all the way around, again, wide enough for cars to make their turns, but not so wide as people want to pass. A 10 to 15 foot inside truck apron, which you see here, it's 15 feet around the edges, but then 10 feet on the inside. And the reason we did that is, again, with the program that we have that runs these truck templates and their turning paths, we'll see where all the trucks are tracking. And if we find that there's an area, if these were both 15 feet, and there was an area, which in the case would be 5 feet, where the trucks were never going to touch, we want to maximize the green space. We don't want to leave, we'd rather have more green space than have it a uniform 15 feet all around to make it look nice. So again, we want to maximize the amount of green space for the designs. And these will have outside truck apron areas where, again, it will allow, because of the shape of the roundabout, the trucks may need a little bit more space to navigate, but again, we still want to discourage the smaller vehicles from utilizing that space. So we'll have some sort of marking there to discourage the smaller vehicles. 4 foot wide buffered sidewalks, complete with ADA compliant ramps, 8 foot wide pedestrian crossings like the other design, as well as concrete splitter islands with pedestrian refuge. Again, a lot of the similar aspects you'll find between the two roundabouts, because we want them designed the same. We want consistency. So you're going to have two roundabouts that are very close to each other. We want to be consistent in our approach, consistent in their design. What we don't want is to have one roundabout function one way and another roundabout function the other way, because again, you're creating that driver confusion. The elongated splitter islands, again, with the high-speed approaches, as you introduce this curb on the inside, the driver it'll feel like the roadway's getting a little bit smaller. It'll encourage them to slow down. You introduce deflection, it'll slow down to eventually the point where they'll yield to get down to 25 miles an hour, and then enter to circulate from that 17 to 20 miles an hour. Some other design impacts. This one has several drainage features to address stormwater. Again, there's right-of-way and easement acquisitions, and like I mentioned in the previous intersection, we have met with the vast majority of the owners who have properties adjacent to this. We started the conversations. They've seen this design. They're aware of what we're looking at, and again, those conversations will continue throughout the process. And 6 points as well as 5 points, going through all the environmental regulations, drainage regulations to make sure we're compliant with everything, and they'll be constructed appropriately. So what's next? We have the preliminary designs laid out. So right now we're in the preliminary design phase. We should be wrapping that up sometime soon, towards the end of this calendar year. From there, it'll progress into a final design where we get a more kind of nail down, how it's going to be graded, what materials are going to be used, a lot of the finer details. This is more of a broader, this design, these are going to be the potential impacts. Final design, you're really tightening it up. We're looking early to mid 2021 for the final design. We'll have a second public info center, hopefully by then. We'll be able to meet in person, but if not, obviously we have this method that we can use. But again, we want to meet with the public again to show them, after we've tightened everything up, this is what it's going to look like, and address any questions that may come at that time. And then construction itself, we're looking, as of now, late 2021. And once we get into that itself with construction, these two intersections are very closely spaced. So questions may come up as far as whether they be done at the same time. We're not going to want them done at the same time. So, construction late 2021, it's going to be staggered, so the date, there's going to be a little bit different for both of them. And that's it for my portion. I think I'm going to hand it back over to Dan, and he'll go over any questions that may have popped up during the presentation. Thank you very much.
Great, thanks, Adam. So if you haven't already seen the slide previously that was up before we started, if you have any questions about anything that Adam, Alan, or Jim even said during this presentation, please navigate down to the question box and just ask away. Also, too, if you're having any issues, 5 and 6 points at sgtpo.org. And if you are listening via phone and you don't have you're not able to obviously use a computer since you're using the phone, there will be comment cards at the Pittsgrove Municipal Building. So you can go down there and ask for a comment card, and then that'll be also sent to us. So you know, a couple different ways, but we want to make sure everybody has the opportunity to ask questions if they have any. So we've already got a couple. So I want to start off by asking the design team or anybody who wants to answer these. The first question is, who is responsible for the snow removal from the sidewalks? So Adam, do you think you want to take that, or Bill?
I was going to say, I see Jim. Jim, did you want to take that one, being from the county?
It will be county property, or will be county right of way. I would imagine the county would be responsible.
Okay. So number 2, is there no exception to farmland preservation for roadways rather than chopping into someone's front lawn, bringing road traffic closer to their home?
Yes, there is a process that you can go through with farmland preservation, just like green acres, where if you have a design where you need to go through a certain property to accommodate the design, it has to go through a review process with, in this case, be farmland preservation. I think it's to be approved by the state. But one of the criteria in there is you have to, in essence, kind of prove that a design can't be done without impacting the property, which in the case that we saw, and we thought about that, we looked at it, but we were able to come up with a design that was able to accommodate all the issues of the existing intersection and avoid the farmland preservation land. So in this case, the option was to not impact farmland preservation.
Great. And then I got another one. One of the residents was asking about being able to fit a combine harvester in the approach lanes. Will they accommodate a 14-foot combine?
This is Bill Patton. I can jump in on this one. Similarly to what Adam talked about in the presentation, we are considering farmland equipment as the wheel paths for these projects, knowing the area and some of the meetings we've had earlier, those questions have been brought up. So yes, we are making sure that the truck aprons that are provided will accommodate the farm equipment. Similar to the larger tractor trailer vehicles, the front tires will use the asphalt circulatory roadway portion, and the trailing tires can track up onto the truck apron. So those wheel paths will definitely be considered when we tweak and finalize the size and layout.
Great. How about this one? So why is a traffic signal not being considered for these intersections? I know you kind of alluded to it earlier.
It's Bill again. I can jump in on this also. So as Alan sort of suggested from the very beginning, the data-driven screening processes identified these 2 intersections as candidates for a roundabout as the safety countermeasure to the identified type and severity of crashes occurring at the intersections, meaning right angle crashes, high speed crashes, or severe injury and unfortunately fatality crashes. The high speed nature, rural nature of the approach roadways, coupled with the complex geometric footprint of the intersections, lend themselves towards a roundabout as an appropriate safety improvement. In many rural environments, sort of like Adam talked about in the presentation, a driver can miss a stop sign or a traffic signal, leading to running through the stop sign or the red light and resulting in an angle crash, which is one of the things we're trying to get rid of. Roundabouts require vehicles to yield and navigate around a raised circular island, significantly reducing the possibility of ankle crashes. Roundabouts constructed at intersections along high-speed, two-lane rural highways reduce crashes, total crashes, by up to 68%. They eliminate 83% of ankle-type crashes and reduce injury crashes by up to 88%. Roundabouts also eliminate intersection left turns, remove head-on approaches, and provide for operating speeds between 15 and 25 miles an hour, no matter what the approach roadway posted speeds are. Roundabouts can be configured to accommodate 5- and 6-leg intersections like we have at these two locations, while eliminating the confusion and reducing the decision-making required at a traditional intersection. As a result, funding was sought to specifically secure monies to design and construct roundabouts as the safety intersection improvement.
Great, thanks, Bill. Just a little housekeeping. Accidentally, or not, just a little correction here. I mentioned earlier that if you're listening via phone, the only way you can really comment about this presentation is from a comment card or emailing us. Chuck Hughes, the Pittsgrove Township Administrator, just informed me that so the building is actually closed, but you can call ahead and they will accommodate any requests. So they do have the comment cards. You just, with COVID going on right now, we just need to call ahead and let them know and they'll accommodate you. So just want to make sure everybody's aware. And also, if you are raising your hand during the presentation, we unfortunately have everyone muted and we can't unmute. So all questions, just navigate down to the question box and use that, or email us, or again, as I mentioned, Pittsgrove can accommodate if you want to call ahead and fill out a comment card at their location. So with that being said, moving on to more questions. So how do these roundabouts preserve the rural character of Pittsgrove? That's an important question.
The roundabouts were designed to specifically fit the complex intersection configurations and have been customized to minimize the footprint as much as possible while incorporating them into the functionality of their surroundings. They are located and positioned to minimize sensitive areas like preserved farmland, as Adam talked about, and to provide for turning movements of all the vehicles that will use the intersection. They incorporate features to accommodate pedestrian and bicycle users, and the 5 Points roundabout specifically makes connections to the nearby parkland. Additional aesthetic features can definitely be investigated in the final design phase of the project. Features such as the choice of construction materials using Belgian block, the colors and patterns for splitter islands and truck aprons, or specific landscaping plantings can be considered for the central island and along approaches, as long as they're outside of the necessary site triangles, to help aesthetically incorporate the roundabout into the surrounding community.
Great, thanks, Bill. Some other questions rolling in. Someone asked the cost for each of these proposed roundabouts.
I guess I'll take that one. I don't know if we've done, I know actually there may be money allocated for the projects themselves, construction. We haven't gotten to the point for the design phase as far as the engineering, coming up with the materials cost. So I don't know, Alan, do you know if there what money was allocated for these two projects?
I'll look at that and chime back in a minute. What I can say though is that because this is federal HSIP funded, it is fully funded. So this does not require the municipality or the county to make a contribution. But I'll chime back in a minute with that number.
Great, thanks, guys. Another question, are there intersections that are similar to the 5 and 6 points intersections that have proposed roundabouts or roundabout applications?
Well, I mean, as I showed in the slides, I mean, there's several across the country. I mean, as far as in this area, you know, we did one up in Hamilton. That was 1, 2, 3. Well, that was 5. Yeah, a White Horse Circle was a 5-leg. 1, 2. No, it was 4. I'm sorry, that was 4-leg. So I mean, there's cases of these all across the country. Up in New York, out in Indiana. As far as New Jersey, with 5 and 6, I think Pole Tavern is 6. Sorry, 5. But I mean, they exist. They exist. They're being utilized. As you can see again from the graphics that I showed, those were all real designs that were put in place of 5 and 6 leg roundabouts.
Great, thanks, Adam. And then moving along, I guess, how will the construction of the roundabouts affect my daily commute or any miscellaneous travel?
The roundabouts will either be constructed using a detour, stage construction, or a combination of both. Once we sort of have these designs nailed down, we'll definitely take a closer look at which of those will be the case. Either way, due to the proximity of the two roundabouts, they will not be constructed simultaneously, so that we're not, you know, squashing traffic at both locations. As far as that is concerned, we do the best we can with the maintenance and protection of traffic designs for the stage construction to provide safety to the traveling public and to the construction worker first and foremost. But we also attempt to design these stages of the construction for maximum efficiency in an attempt to minimize the inconvenience to the traveling public and the adjacent community. Designs will maintain access to residents and businesses during construction and strive to minimize disruption delays to daily commuters, school bus routes, and miscellaneous travel. Any anticipated delays built into the design or with detours will be communicated with local officials and coordinated with local stakeholders like schools, first responders, local government for the dissemination to the public in advance of their implementation.
Thanks, Bill. And then another question. Sure.
Hey, yeah, this is Alan, SJTPO. If I could just chime in on that last question relating to the cost. So what we have programmed for these two projects, and these are placeholder numbers because you know, final design has not taken place, so we don't have final cost estimates in place. But the placeholder numbers we have for construction are 1.1 million for 6 points and 1.05 million for 5 points.
Great, thanks, Alan. Appreciate it. Another question. So once the construction has started, how long will the process take to be completed?
I think again, going back on the experience we had with the White Horse Circle up in Hamilton, the roundabout itself is not a, I would say, very complex thing to construct. I mean, it's curb and asphalt. So I think generally between a year and 18 months, again, depending on, you know, do we have detours? Are we doing one lane each direction with seasons? We know when you can and cannot construct, but I think a year to 18 months is probably just a good window. Because again, with some of the traffic, we may have to create temporary roadways to get the traffic out of the middle circle, then to for the roundabout, then construct the center, you know, move traffic all around. But again, I would say probably a year to 18 months is a good window.
Great, thanks. So I know, Alan, you just mentioned the kind of rough estimate for cost, but another important question is who ultimately is paying for this project?
Yeah, so so this is federally funded from the Highway Safety Improvement Program. So that comes from Federal Highway Administration. The program, like I said, the local safety program is how that funding comes to us. So it's administered by NJDOT, and we're a partner in that. Through us and through NJDOT, we help the county to get access to that funding. So there's no further application process for them to go to get to that funding. I mean, they've already, essentially been accepted for that funding by getting to this point. As long as they continue to be happy to proceed, that federal funding is going to be available for them at whatever point we program that in. So.
Great, thank you. So no township dollars, this is a federally funded project.
That is correct.
And another question, does the choice of roundabout factor in projected development, residential, and other?
Are they talking about after building this, will more people want to build in the area?
Yeah, I think so. Yes.
I mean, it may make the area more attractive because there'll be less crashes. But as far as development, I mean, that would be, I guess, Pittsgrove and Salem County with their master plans and what they have in store projected for the area. But I don't know that having these two roundabouts built is going to necessarily bring, I guess, a bunch of new housing developments and businesses to the right where the roundabouts are, especially again because of all the farmland that's there. But you would have to check with the county and the township with that. But Dan, I just wanted to add something I forgot to mention during the presentation, and that was speaking with some residents. This is specifically for the 5 Points intersection. Again, why roundabout versus signalized or unsignalized intersection is that it seems like a high frequency of crashes that occur around the time where 5 Points is. You have the park and soccer facility, and they have tournaments there quite frequently. So you have a lot of drivers from out of the area that are coming into Pittsgrove and Salem County, not being familiar with the intersections, and that's when you get a lot of unsure drivers, hesitant, stepping on the gas. So adding the roundabout with yield on entry and only having to look one way kind of alleviates that those decisions for people who aren't familiar with the area, because you may get some people who will say, well, I'm used to it. It's really not that difficult. But for people that aren't there, and since you have a high number of people from out of town, especially when they have those tournaments, this will help that.
Great, thanks, Adam. Yeah, and I would add, as a planner, I mean, ultimately the zoning code in Pittsgrove Township is what directs development, what can and cannot be developed, and how it's developed. So, I mean, the zoning code, nothing in this project is proposing changes to the zoning code. That is a local Pittsgrove decision. This is just a purely from a traffic safety standpoint of county-owned roads. So, while they're kind of there's a relationship between the two, those decisions are made separately. So that's really ultimately Pittsgrove's decision. So I guess moving forward, some of the last questions. So if you wanted to say again, I mean, how is a modern roundabout different than a traffic circle?
I guess just following, kind of what I've reiterated several times with the presentation. The goal with the modern roundabout is to have slower circulating speeds, which is controlled by the size of the roundabout itself. Slower approach speeds, which again is controlled by the splitter islands, pavement markings, outside curb line geometry. And it's all yield on entry, which forces the approaching vehicle to yield to the circulating vehicle. And now going across the state again with aren't we getting rid of traffic circles? My experience driving around the state is, the old adage was when you get to a traffic circle, you close your eyes and step on the gas, and you just hope you don't hit anything or nothing hits you. because a lot of times when you approach it, you really didn't know, who had the right of way, because it differed. Sometimes you had the yield on the inside, sometimes you had the yield when you're entering. And then with a lot of the existing traffic circles are very large in size. And again, the larger the size, the more opportunity the vehicle has to accelerate and to pick up speed, which creates that speed difference, for someone who's going on a straightaway, then turns, but there's a slower car slamming on the brakes. So, you want to remove all that. So basically, it's the size, it's how the intersection is controlled. Everything's brought in, it's smaller, the speeds are controlled. You don't have, and again, if you look at that example I initially had with the White Horse Circle, where you had roads cutting through circles. A lot of time, even with it was a Marlton Circle in Marlton, New Jersey. It was a traffic circle, and they cut right through with the main road of Route 73. So, there's a lot of driver indecision, and that's eliminated with the modern roundabout, because again, as you approach, you're only looking to your left. You don't have to cross, you don't look to your right. Speed entering, around 25 miles an hour, circulating 17, 20 miles an hour. It's consistent on all approaches. So you kind of get used to the flow and the rhythm of these modern roundabouts. And, hopefully across the state, as they're implemented, they all follow those same guidelines. And again, that's why we're getting away from the old traffic circles that really had no rhyme or reason. And maybe at a point they did when there was a lot less traffic, but they don't follow the same rules. There's a lot more rules and specific things you have to do with modern roundabouts.
Thanks, Adam. Here's another one. So what type of signage or lights will be on each road to notify drivers of upcoming change?
Before, as far as lighting is concerned, we obviously want to light where the signs are themselves. So when it's, because I've been, driving some of the roads in Pittsgrove late at night, and they're pretty dark. So signs, they'll be kind of lit enough where you can see the road signs for the roundabout that's approaching, as well as where the crosswalks are, so you can see pedestrians if they're in the area, or bicyclists. And as far as the type of light, I mean, that's something we'll look into with final design. There's been areas where they've had decorative lighting, again, have a more of a feel for the area. I'm at downtown Pittsgrove. There's certain light standards that they like to use in the area. But it's not going to be anything that's really obscene and bright, and it's, a lot of the light pollution. It's going to be, cognizant of where it is. You've got farms around there, you've got residents' houses over there, but you want it to be lit so it's at least safe and you can see what you're approaching, and once you're circulating, you can see all the other approaches.
To further expand on that with the signage, what you can expect to see approaching a roundabout is typically the diamond-shaped yellow warning sign showing the circular pattern, indicating a circular intersection is ahead. There's often an advisory speed plaque on that, 15 miles an hour. Sometimes you'll see 20 miles an hour. Then as you get closer to the roundabout, you'll see pedestrian signs at the crosswalks with arrows pointing down, indicating that there's a crossing location, and you can expect to see pedestrians there. Next, you'll see yield signs immediately at the intersection, definitely on the right and sometimes on the left at the splitter island. And then as you're circulating the roundabout, particularly a single lane roundabout, usually on the corner of the splitter island, as you're circulating, approaching that circulating traffic, there'll be a sign at the splitter island indicating what the next exiting leg is, so that you can feel comfortable in making the decision that you're leaving the roundabout at the proper time. You can also see on approach in the center of the roundabout facing your approach, typically two chevrons, a white sign with black chevrons, indicating that there is a circular pattern approaching you. And that's another thing with the lighting is we definitely, in addition to having lighting to indicate that there could be pedestrians or bicyclists ahead of you, we like to have enough lighting, like Adam said, not crazy, but enough lighting to indicate that there is a central roundabout approaching you. So that also forces you to take note and slow your speeds as you enter that pattern.
Great, thanks guys. So as we're nearing the end, a couple more questions. Yeah, just to reiterate, just a correction from earlier. If you do want to offer a question and you're listening via phone, Pittsgrove Township has some comment cards available, and these comment cards will go to us and we will provide a response. If to show up and fill one out, you have to just give them advance notice, and their township number is 856-358-2300. So just to make sure everybody's aware. I think with that being said, it doesn't look like there's any more questions coming in right now. So if there's, unless there's anything else outstanding, I think that will conclude this meeting. There is a website that you guys can visit. A recording of this presentation will be posted on sjtpo.org/5 and 6 points. So you can visit sjtpo.org, that webpage. There will be a follow-up email to this presentation that you'll receive, and the link will be provided in there as well. So just a couple of things to keep in mind. You know, we're kind of towards the beginning of this project, and as this project progresses, there will be more information forthcoming, and we'll be sure to involve the public in every single process, involving the public in the process of this project. And that includes a public comment period of 12 days. So if you didn't ask a question, or maybe you think of another question, a couple of days from now, feel free to reach out to us at 5 and 6 points at sjtpo.org. Or again, as I mentioned, Pittsgrove Township can provide comment cards with advance notice. So with that being said, we welcome any and all questions and comments, and we will provide responses during this public comment period from now until August 10th. So with that, I think that will conclude today's virtual public information center meeting. And I want to thank everybody for showing up, logging in, taking the time, and we look forward to this process unfolding and creating a good and safe solution to the safety issues and the crashes that have occurred at 5 and 6 points intersection. So with that, wish you a good evening and a safe and enjoyable rest of your week. Thanks.